Well, this Hugh is going to be a bit of a different episode of Leadership Uncertain because before we came on to the live space and the recording, you were telling me it's hard from where you sit at the top of your organization in that leadership seat to know if you're going in the right direction, choosing the right goals, on the right path, and and you have graciously said, let's
Let's
talk
talk about it.
in
Yeah,
front of
absolutely.
the world. So
Yeah,
here,
sure.
why don't you uh, open up the conversation here in a moment and tell me, what are the things that you are considering, and what is it that has you feel like you are leading uncertain?
Sure. I have a really great document that we created back in 2019. As you know, we are participants in the EOS framework, Gino Wickman, Traction, all that. And in 2019, we created a 10-year plan that talked about how we were going to take over the world effectively in our industry. And it was very aspirational, and we had these revenue goals and these revenue targets. And along the way, new technologies have shown up, AI has shown up. We have different needs and different price points and different verticals that we now serve. We've learned a lot. We are effectively 7 years into that 10-year plan. And I read the plan, and it still has very viable parts. But there are two things that I struggle with every day. And those are, one, is the vision that was set 10 years ago still appropriate for who we are today? That's one. And two, am I doing the things in my everyday world to honor and really get close to the things that are in that plan and vision? And what am I not seeing? And what opportunities are more appropriate for us that I am not seeing? So these are things that I'm curious about as a leader, because I don't really have someone in the organization that can check those criteria and give me a sense of calibration. And in many cases, I feel like there is market research that we do. We do get a lot of feedback from our customers and our prospects about where they would like to take our products and where our products have to evolve in order to meet their needs. And yet, it always feels like there's a person that I have yet to connect with and sell to, for whom, with the right evolution, we would be in a place that was more congruent with a more effective and efficient future with a better trajectory. And this is the cycle. Are we doing the things that are most prescient for us, or are we doing the things that are simply the most convenient next step? And
And,
what's the difference?
and so prescient, as I understand that word,
Mm,
seeing around the corner.
mhm.
Um, and so, one of the things that I wondered about when you said, "Is this vision still appropriate?" was, well, appropriate to what? How do you define appropriate?
Right. And even that is under debate, right? How do we define what, when we were bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and full of optimism prior to COVID, the world made sense, and there wasn't the prospect of AI. And we imagined that in order to hit the volumes that we were thinking about, we need to be a 200-person company.
Hmm.
And the truth is, a lot of the things that we were aspiring to become do not make sense with a as a large organization, with the capabilities that we've already developed with what we have access to today. And so much of what we're able to achieve, we do through joint venture and through partnering with other companies without taking the same kind of overhead risk, as an example. So linearly developing whatever insight or thought we had in the past there are some very obvious things we will not be doing as per the plan because it just doesn't make sense. And the market also has shifted. So the even the things that we were projecting that people would buy in our original 10-year plan, those particular services and products have given way for us to develop and really focus on other related but very distinct products and services. And the training that has to be delivered to my staff to go through that, I've had to completely reinvent and get more clear about the underlying technology and methodologies to deliver what we do. So, all of that to say, the future is in flux. What it means to even point to and make those things into goals isn't as certain and doesn't necessarily make as much sense 7 years into a 10-year plan.
Right. Which makes sense. Even though when the world isn't changing as fast as it is right now,
Exactly.
a 7-year-old 10-year plan is likely to be less appropriate.
Yeah.
So I hear you talking
Sure.
around some of the ways in which you're thinking about what is and isn't appropriate from that plan. Well, what I still don't have a clear understanding of yet, and I would imagine you could probably do this in a sentence or two.
Okay.
I don't know what you mean yet by appropriate.
Sure.
What is
I
the
don't know. I don't know that we have defined that effectively. So appropriate to me, this is great. Thank you for helping me clarify my thinking. So appropriate to me is synonymous with the word intelligent.
Mm,
And to me, intelligent is a disposition in which activity and effort are made congruent with the stimulus being provided by the universe at large. What does that mean? It means that we are assessing the most energy efficient response to the outside world as it's giving us feedback.
mm. So there's something implicit here that you're not stating outright.
Sure.
The most energy efficient response in in response to the stimulus of the universe, I would imagine, is essentially whatever a rock would do. Right? Like,
Well, more
just sit there.
specifically, a drop of water rolling down a mountain.
I
It's
thought
the
you might
gradient.
say that. Right.
Calculus
Well,
3 was my favorite subject. Keep going.
yeah. So the thing that's implicit in how I hear you thinking about and speaking about appropriate that you haven't said outright is it seems as though there are outcomes that are preferable for you over some outcomes would be preferable over other outcomes. Like I'm
Yes.
imagining, for example, that more revenue, uh, any positive number, for example, would be better than zero. Um,
No, that's actually not true. But keep
good,
going.
great. So I mean, I'm just making up what the metrics of outcome might be that you
Right.
are interested in. When you say intelligent, that it's a disposition to actively uh, of activity and effort that's congruent with the stimulant of the universe at large, there
Yes.
is implicit in that in order that we accomplish X.
Mm. Okay, so we do have some revenue goals, but more important than revenue goals are margin goals.
Mm,
So there is
right.
I don't know that we throw out stupid numbers. Like I don't know that I have to create a company that makes $100 million a year.
Okay.
That's not a requirement. It would be much easier if I were to, well, so a couple of things have kind of shown up since we started this trek 7 years ago. I am very aware and alert that I have made a commitment to the 14 families that supply their workers to engage our business. So I am very sensitive to the ability to keep paying them well and having us work together to create value in the marketplace.
Mm.
At odds with that outcome is the pervasive desire for all of our customers to have us reduce our prices because of impending competition, commoditization of our services, all that stuff. And of course, we also face inflation and a very dynamic tax environment. So there are lots of things that are opposing, and I have decisions to make around, well, do I reposition our products and services so that they are essentially there's some component of automation? How much do I invest in research and development around
Mhm.
automation? Do I want to now instead offer more complex, higher value service offerings um, in some of my more exotic niches? And we
Yeah.
have some of that. And do I redeploy some of my staff and some of my sales efforts to really go capitalize on that at the cost of our regular business? Do I look to invest more in the relationships that offer, more services around those niche services? Or do I generalize our reach? Because we only have so much in the way of resources that we can direct to our general messaging. And the stakes are high and the opportunities are fantastic if we go after the niche, but the niche is only a 6-year real adventure, whereas the regular business has been kind of clucking along for the last 12 years. And though the growth is not expected to be explosive, there is a lot of safety in being able to service 50
Right.
something industries as opposed to one.
So interestingly, you are talking again about what is appropriate
Hmm.
before we really have a definition of appropriate.
Sure.
Which is gonna which to me anyway, it may explain some of the struggle.
Yes. Well,
Right.
so remember, half the trouble in any opportunity to be confused is not knowing how to frame the problem
Right.
or not knowing how to ask the question. So getting clarity around how to model and frame the challenge is usually the hardest part, right? I don't
Yeah.
know what to weigh as most important. And as a result, the appearance and the result is apparent confusion.
Yeah. So one of the things I heard you say that might be pointing at a definition of appropriate is pay your people well and keep them so that you can continue to pay them well as opposed to just jettisoning them because of for cost reduction,
Mm,
with the caveat that you also mentioned of if our customers can get equivalent results more with less expense somewhere else, then they'll go somewhere else. And implicit in that is then I won't be able to employ anybody.
Well, and or the thing that we have been exploring is creating a bit of a blended strategy where we do offer services that leverage more automation to have an entire line of business be completely automated.
Right.
And that helps to bolster the ability for us to do and handle more of our regular work with the experts that we have developed at margins that may not be as high for their business, but at the same time protects our brand, protects our reputation, protects our ability to be profitable in the marketplace. There are a lot of things that go into not just the profit, but maintaining a world-class culture, which is what we have at this point. So, I mean, there's so many different parts that go into being confused about the topic.
Right.
And where I struggle is how to build the frame, how to think about all the challenges that paint a picture for a desired outcome from which the thinking then clarifies.
So if you can
Mm,
prohibit yourself for a moment from thinking about the how,
okay.
right? So automation you just gave us as an example of how we might bring in revenue that would support our ability to do these other things. So there, our ability to do these other things seems like maybe it's pointing at what is the outcome that you want, that if you were making if every choice supported that outcome, you could call those choices appropriate. We still haven't defined appropriate. So the only part of it so far that I am clear on is at least those people whom you are employing, you want to pay well. And maybe you'd also like to keep on the staff that you have and not trim back. What would make you, what are outcomes that would make you feel good about the decisions that you made? Let's say it's 3 years from now or 5 years from now.
Okay. Well, I appreciate going through the exercise. So here's what gets to be true. I want to serve, I want to serve at least, I want to serve at least 1,000 customers a year.
Okay.
And that doesn't have to be projects because we can do a lot more. 1,000 customers potentially could be as many as 3,000, 3 to 5,000 actual companies supported. Because a lot of those folks tend to be either repeat customers or they have conglomerates with lots of companies that are our customers. So let's just say 1,000 actual contracts that are closed and engaged every single year in our services business. 1,000 contracts served a year in our services business.
And so then what I'm hearing is that intelligent looks like making decisions that lead to the ability to serve 1,000 customers, sign 1,000 contracts per year
Yes,
in your services business.
in the services business.
So that is a workable definition of appropriate. Doesn't answer the question of what is appropriate. I think it does answer the question, what are we even aiming at when we say we want to be appropriate?
Yeah. Because if we serve 1,000 customers in a year in excellence on average, I know what that's going to result in with respect to revenue, and I know what that, in order for our automated strategy, if we choose to employ one, we know what that will need to do in order to yield 1,000 customers to the service revenue. So if I had to kind of peel back all of the different layers and focus on a single metric that no matter how we get there, it makes everything else okay, that would be it.
1,000 customers.
1,000 customers.
And you also earlier said revenue is one thing. Margin is more important to you
Yes.
than the revenue. And
Yes.
so I would imagine that if you serve 1,000 customers this year, margin is going to be important to your ability to serve 1,000 customers again next year. Because if you don't have the margin, or if you've got a negative margin, that's going to make it impossible to keep doing that.
The neat thing is so the number I gave you was calculated at the lowest current margin that we have. So
Which-
that assumes that we are in the lowest vertical, focused on the lowest common denominator, and we still be okay.
And that the market will continue to support that margin while you serve those folks.
If we've signed the contract, then we'd be at the lowest margin. So even just getting them on board, I know exactly where we would be with margin in the worst case scenario.
Okay.
Yeah, that we have at least locked out.
Okay. So then if we're talking about, am I on the right track? What you struggled with, you said, is the vision still appropriate? Am I doing the things that honor that vision? Let's just start with your current sense of what's appropriate. Is your current sense of what's appropriate 1,000 people in your or 1,000 contracts in your services business? is that congruent with the vision that you set 7 years ago?
Um, it's not what we put out on the board
Mm.
for that. So there's now going, thanks for the exercise, because what I've now come away with is I have to redesign that document. The neat thing about it is it doesn't change it dramatically, but it does make it, it's a very distinct change from how we've been thinking about our opportunities to this point.
Hmm.
And
Say
we
more.
have been focused very, very tactically. So we've been thinking about, okay, well, we've been failing certain metrics because I'll give you an example. So in our world, GL detail migrations used to be very important. GL detail, all the VARs, all of the value added resellers of software that we support never used to do general ledger detail migrations. And over the last 10 years, we've shown them that we're willing to do them, and they're actually not that hard. And you can do a great job and have customers be a lot more happy with their implementation of Sage Intacct when they have the detail that they want to their heart's desire. So lo and behold, the publisher themselves and all of ours started creating their own data migration departments that offer general ledger detail. And one by one, they started figuring out how to do it their own way, and they stopped doing third-party business with us, which, on its face, you might think that that was a bad thing. I think it's great. Why? Because we get to show people through leadership that this could be done. And we had thought leadership. We set a precedent for thought leadership in the industry. What's been interesting is now that there is this pervasive appetite for general ledger detail migrations, customers have begun wanting more. So I said to my staff 4 years ago, right now, 95% of our business is GL detail migrations. But you watch, 5 years from now, we'll barely do any of them because everybody else will be doing them. And we will be doing subledger migrations, which is what everybody and their mother's going to want in the years to come. So we better learn how to do them. Back then,
what kind of ledger migrations?
Subledger.
Sub?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So that's harder and it's more complicated. So would you believe that this quarter before last was a start? It's continued. I sold more subledger migrations in that quarter than I sold GL detail migrations. And subledger migrations are worth 3 times a GL. So even though our total contract numbers have gone down for the number of entities we migrate and the number of contracts that we engage, our revenue's actually gone up as our margins have gone up because we're now doing harder scopes for fewer individual customers, but for more entities. So the customers are getting bigger, more complicated, their needs are more. And then we're, of course, one of the companies that pioneered the use of attachments in migrations. Now there are 2 or 3 other players out there that now do them after 5 or 6 years of the capability being available. So, folks are coming for what we used to do, but we continue to innovate and we get better. And so we had metrics around the number of GL detail migrations that we were going to do in 10 years. Well, that number doesn't make any sense anymore because we don't really focus on that line of business. We still do them. We still do a lot of them. But the real interest is in the number of entities or maybe even the scopes that we do. And we're now in construction, and construction is vastly different than all of the other migrations that we used to do.
So when it comes to what's appropriate now, one of the things that you just said is you saw somebody coming for your lunch and you said, that's fine because we're going to eat dinner.
Yeah.
And dinner is harder to make and all that. So, so they can have that because that's old news.
Well, and the customers are going to ask for the stuff they can't do.
Right.
And when they do, they will be in a position to refer us. And that's what's happened.
And so one question around how do I, and of course there's never knowing whether what you're doing is whether you're on the right path.
Yes.
Um, what's coming for you now,
Mm.
and what is becoming possible, and that's still going to be hard for whatever's coming for you now?
Um, it's interesting. So the prospect of AI has been intriguing because what AI has done is imbued the common customer with a false sense of confidence that they can do this in excellence, the work
Mm,
we do. Because of course, if you can get the AI to spit out a bunch of nonsense and give you direction on how to do this and show you how to pull your data, then clearly you can figure out how to get, your stuff into the new system. The challenge is that there are so many ways to get it wrong. And you won't even know until it's in the system and you've already overcommitted. And then you live with it. It's been interesting, the spike this year for the calls that I've gotten to go save botched migrations
mm,
or to correct them. So migration correction is actually our largest growing segment in the business. Somebody migrated something, it's terrible, and now they're calling us in to fix it because it's irreparable the way it is now. Um, so I will tell you that AI presents an unprecedented opportunity for us to pivot into either support services around botched migrations or the use of it to help guide thought. So I started creating course content and teaching courses at lower price points to just teach people what to be looking out for if you're going to do it yourself. Because at the end of the day, we know that the large firms that have to 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 entities, they're probably not going to do this on their own. And they're probably going to want to get help. And what I'm seeing is this is an opportunity for us to clear the path for the onesies and the twosies to go do things themselves, either through our automated systems or our best practices, so we can leave space for the folks that want to migrate something a month. We've also found a bit of a niche with hedge funds where they are looking to do an acquisition a month or an acquisition every other week, and they need a migration shop that just understands how to get things done, and they are built for speed. And so having 3 or 4 of those customers has been just fantastic. And you know what? If it means that, and they, a lot of time, the new hedge funds, back in the day, they would only want GL. Now the hedge funds that we work with only want sub-ledger migrations. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not really afraid. It's just, it's going to be more interesting finding the people that still value human capability, competence, and an affinity for excellence in service with the humanity to help them solve their problems when they get lost.
mm,
And that's where I see service going in our industry. So I'm not worried about becoming cheaper, though I am exploring some automated features for some technology that we're building that will allow for some very significant subset of our product mix to be delivered without the use of our people's time. We're doing that anyway. It's just the scale to which we're going to roll that out is going to be determined by the opportunities that come up. And we can do that too. There's no reason why we can't do both.
so some of the things that you are pointing at that I hear that might be appropriate to getting you to 1,000 contracts is, there's the saving botched migrations that you talked about.
Mhm.
Um, I also wonder, because I have botched plenty of things myself and then had to go get help to unbotch them. Um, and it sure would have been valuable to me if somebody had intercepted me
Mm.
before I botched them
Mhm.
and said, the here's how to know if you're about to drive yourself off a cliff. So I wonder about saving botched migrations and saving people from themselves. You put two things together that I wonder if they are complementary rather than the same thing, because you pointed at the human, and that you talked about, with humanity and compassion and service and things like that, right? There are lots of ways to get a suit. The least expensive and cheapest and quickest ways are things like, Men's Warehouse, and you can walk in and practically walk out with a suit. There are still people who go and get a bespoke suit that gets cut specifically for them, piece by piece.
Right.
Rather than trying to put a bunch of stuff together in my head, knowing much less than you do, if we look back at, how do I know if I'm on the right track? What's coming up for you in light of that question after this conversation so far?
Well, I mean, the most important thing we just did was you helped me, as circumlocutory as I was being, you helped me get to a place where I can tell you that I want 1,000 contracts a year. And that's important, because the next part is to figure out, well, of those 1,000 contracts, what's the product mix? Because we currently sell 9 scopes. So if we just created a projection around those 1,000 contracts to be certain scopes or certain particular verticals that we have, then our 10-year plan gets to be redesigned, and my daily work now has context again. And that part becomes much more straightforward. So you've already helped me commit to a single thought, an organizing principle.
Yeah.
Around what gets to work. Because, I started off talking about my employees, and the truth is I do really want to keep them, and I do want to grow the team moderately, though I don't need to explode the team now, given all of the amazing partners that we have out there, people in the ecosystem that share our values, that want to do certain parts of this work, and we don't have to do it ourselves. And I don't have to take on the operational risk of, another 20 people, given everything that we can do. That being said, I also want to have enough of a presence corporately that any one person can take a vacation and we are not limping along. So there gets to be operational overlap and safety and buffer, and the ability for us to operationally and administratively have somebody go on sabbatical and all of our processes remain intact. So that's another part of another quality of appropriateness that we are shooting for. Yeah.
Great. And so then one of the things that there are kind of two questions that emerge then. If that's what appropriate looks like, then you can ask about what you're doing and what you're considering doing. Is this likely to contribute to that outcome?
Yes.
That's one question. And then the second question, is this likely to contribute more than some other thing that I could be doing with my time or attention, or less? Which is very distinct from a question that I think is a trap, which is this going to contribute most?
Yeah, and most, we can just give up on that right now, because I don't know.
There's no way to know.
The beautiful thing is that, I always, again, please appreciate that I say this with all the respect in the world to the people that are listening to us. I have no, if I didn't have employees, I would be nowhere and I would be no one. And I am so grateful for them for trusting me to come up with vision and create security in a world where there is very little.
Yeah.
At the same time, I am oft to tell my staff, I don't have the answer, but we'll figure it out together. And I've had to really gain their trust to be able to say that with a full chest. And I say that because a lot of times the people who employees work for aren't a whole lot smarter than those employees. It's not like they know the future a
Yeah.
lot more than anybody else. And if we just happen to have confidence in something we know is going to work, just because we know it's going to work doesn't make us right. It just makes us certain.
Yeah.
And we find that a lot of times employees will gravitate to the person with the most amount of certainty. And
Yeah, and sometimes
that's
that
really the
certainty is deserved, right? Like, you look
right.
at somebody who bucks all the trends like a Steve Jobs, lots of people would have said that's not a good idea about all kinds of the things that he made work.
Yes. Well, and I read his biography and he talks about the cone of there's like this sphere of like invincibility you would feel when you're around him, like you could do anything.
Yeah.
And I realize that I have that kind of faith in my staff because they will do things that will make me feel like I can do
Mm.
anything. And they are informed that that's how I feel about them. And truly they can do a lot. So I say that to just suggest that, you know what, I appreciate the vote of confidence. I don't always have the answer, but I don't always have to have the answer. And that's also part of the journey. And in this conversation, what I've gotten from it is the fact that I can make a very distinct pivot. You know, what we had to share today didn't blow up my plan the way what it was. It just showed that there are certain it was structured in a way that was really focused on the how. There are product lines that no longer exist that are part of the plan. There are
Mhm.
metrics that no longer make sense that are part of the plan. Um, we have started a very aggressive customer rating system where customers will rate us on our performance. That performance is now a part of the new plan that we have been talking about. And I would like to keep that. You know, we want to keep our customer service scores above 4.75. So that is a thing that we manage and we met, you know, we look at every quarter to see how we're doing. Um, there are certain metrics also that we want to keep, like, you know, our quality metrics around reprocessing. So if we have so many opportunities to screw something up, how many times have we made a mistake that has caused for data to be reprocessed that the customer found?
Mm.
And that's something that we track and report. And that's something that also gets to be a part of our metrics that weren't in the original 10-year plan. So there are these little things that are growing in, but they were small in comparison to a single organizing metric that will take us through the next 4 years.
Yeah.
So that way we get on the other side and we go, okay, this is who we are. We have arrived intact. We either did or didn't do this, but this is how we preserve our soul. And this is how we make money along the way.
And so we're almost out of time. The last question perhaps of the that I have for you in this call, again around this, how do I know if I'm on the right track?
Yeah.
Um, what's your track record?
On revenue, we're off by a lot.
I mean, in terms of you making decisions that move you in the right direction.
Okay. Well, you know, that's interesting. So the last time I did a VTO report, I was able to check off 65+% of the things that we said we were going to do in this very long document. And everything else, we had made progress towards it. So the self-service tool and the publications we wanted to be featured in, and some of the other things that we had said, and automation experiences and web mapping and a bunch of other things that we said we were going to do, we actually did. So what I will tell you is the things that we have put on the list, the team is very serious about making strides towards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's encouraging to know that if we put something on a list, positive momentum will happen. I guess where I feel some amount of pressure is am I making the decisions that will allow us to be able to survive the next extinction level event? And there
Right.
have been a couple where, people have created a technology that was supposed to wipe us off the face of the earth. And we understand the process well enough to know that what we do isn't a relationship between databases. It's a service that creates an experience that have people transcend themselves.
Yeah.
And we use technology to achieve that. So I'm very clear about why we deliver value. Until this conversation, I realized I was struggling with an organizing principle that transcended how things could change for us. And that's what I got out of this
Terrific.
conversation. Yeah, that single statement now helps clarify my thinking around which I can kind of judge all
Yep.
the different decisions that I get to make in the day.
Yeah. And one of the things, from our conversations through the years now, is that you have seemed to me to be pretty good at recognizing a mistake and correcting it. And so the question that there will be lots of opportunities, I have no doubt, for you to say, "Oh, I have not been on the right track in X respect," and you can just count on that being true.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
and
And they're made in deals. So there's going to be a thing you try,
mm,
and that's a one-off, and it violates some proviso that you gave to yourself, and you get burned appropriately. When you get burned and it's in service of the thing, you learn from it in such a way that you get better and it gets better. But you'll notice it's a very distinct experience when you do something you shouldn't have and you learn the lesson from it. And the feedback is swift if you're willing to be receptive.
and sometimes that tells you that this proviso is it's time for this proviso to be extinct.
Yes.
And so if all information is information and you are receiving it that way, that's hard to be really off track.
Oh, and right. So I learned. I. It's funny. I was control. I love controls engineering. I only took one class, and it wasn't until just a few months ago I learned the difference between a positive feedback loop and a negative feedback loop.
Ooh.
If you will indulge me, I'll
Oh,
share what I learned with everybody. So a positive feedback loop is a compounding effect. So think of um,
a snowball.
uh, a snowball. A snowball running down a mountain is a positive feedback effect. So it rolls, it picks up more, it rolls, it picks up more. The more it picks up, the more it picks
Even
up.
if you don't want it to.
Even
Right.
especially if you don't want
Positive
it to.
does not mean good. It just means growing.
Active. Negative feedback loop, by contrast, is something that is self-correcting. So think of your thermostat.
Mm.
So effectively, it is set to hit a certain number, right? At below a certain number, it's going to turn on your AC or turn off your heat, whichever one it's set to do. So effectively, it looks to keep some kind of stasis, and it will introduce a signal until that signal overcorrects, and then it turns itself off, so that there is this give and take, this back and forth of trying to keep some kind of directionality. So between the positive feedback loop and the negative feedback loop, you can create systems that grow and accrete in their nature, and also have a self-corrective nature to them as they keep their culture, or they do whatever it is that you're after as you're designing, but you're also interested in growth and interested in compounding and interesting. So you have certain systems in your world that are supposed to be positive feedback loops, and you have other systems in your world that are designed to be negative feedback loops, and you just try not to get them confused with each other. And with that, I'm complete and I will disappear.
All right, folks. Well, this has been Leadership Uncertain, where we are conducting adventures in confusion, power, love, and dignity. Thank you so much, Hugh, for a really fun conversation, a completely different take on how we do this. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.